In the heart of a rain-soaked, deserted New York City, Lucas Mitchell, a lonely photographer haunted by loss, sees something impossible. A mother bear dragging a trembling cub inside a battered old duffel bag down an empty Fifth Avenue. As their eyes meet through the stormy veil, Lucas realizes this isn't a threat. It's a desperate plea for help. Little does he know, answering her silent call will mend not only the cub's wounds, but also heal his own broken heart. The skies over New York City were an endless canopy of gray, swollen clouds releasing steady curtains of cold rain that drummed a rhythmic melancholy onto the abandoned streets below. It was as if Manhattan itself had drawn a deep, collective breath, holding it indefinitely as the city lay strangely dormant. Fifth Avenue, normally bustling with life, now stretched eerily quiet, its pavement glistening slickly beneath dimly reflected streetlights. Rows of parked cars sat immobile, their windshields fogged and bodies glittering with raindrops, silent observers of the scene that unfolded amidst the ghostly stillness. Amidst this desolation, Ember emerged. She was a large, grisly bear, magnificent yet painfully weary, her powerful frame cloaked in fur now darkened and heavy with rain. Each step was deliberate, burdened, as if the weight of the world pressed down on her massive shoulders. Scars traced her body beneath the drenched fur, faint reminders of battles won and hardships endured. Her golden brown eyes, dulled by fatigue, scanned her surroundings warily, driven not by instinct for food, but by an instinct far more primal: protection. Ember's powerful jaws gripped the frayed handle of a dirty canvas duffel bag, torn and battered, its original color long lost to mud and time. With tremendous effort, she dragged the bag along the wet pavement, pausing only briefly to catch her breath, glancing cautiously into shadowed alleyways and darkened storefronts. Yet, within her gaze, there was no aggression, only desperation, determination, and a silent plea. Several blocks away, within a modest studio apartment on West 49th Street, Lucas Mitchell stood near his window, nursing a cup of lukewarm coffee. At 31, Lucas was tall and lean, his rugged handsomeness now shadowed by stubble and sleeplessness, his green eyes dulled by solitude. Once an acclaimed photographer, Lucas had withdrawn from public view after a tragic accident claimed his younger brother, Sam, whose death had left an insurmountable void in Lucas's life. Haunted by memories, he had chosen isolation, existing quietly behind the lens of anonymity. Lucas squinted through the fog glass, confused by the surreal sight before him. It was impossible, yet unmistakable. A massive bear lumbering down Fifth Avenue, dragging what seemed to be a heavy bag behind her. His pulse quickened, curiosity mingling with disbelief. He rubbed the window clean with his sleeve, pressing closer to confirm he wasn't dreaming. "No way," Lucas murmured, setting his coffee down abruptly, spilling a bit unnoticed onto the windowsill. The bear paused under a flickering street lamp, providing Lucas with a clearer view. Its exhaustion was palpable, its movements slower, burden heavier. Then, as if sensing Lucas's watchful eyes, the bear stopped abruptly, turning slightly toward him, though he was hidden in shadow. In that moment, Lucas glimpsed something in her eyes, a pleading vulnerability, a silent communication transcending species. Lucas's breath caught sharply. He'd spent his life capturing moments of raw human emotion, yet nothing compared to the profound desperation radiating from this creature. Suddenly, the bear gently set the duffel bag down on the rain-slick pavement. The canvas shifted unmistakably, drawing a startled gasp from Lucas. Something inside was alive. Without thinking, Lucas grabbed his jacket, an old leather one worn from years of adventures now forgotten, and sprinted down the narrow stairs of his building, shoes pounding loudly against worn tiles. His mind raced. What could a bear possibly carry in such a manner? Was this a twisted dream? He reached the lobby and pushed out into the biting rain, its coldness slapping him awake. Approaching cautiously, Lucas felt adrenaline surging through his veins. He stopped 30 feet from Ember, heart hammering wildly. This close, Ember seemed even larger, a powerful guardian whose very presence commanded respect. She watched Lucas intently, neither retreating nor advancing, simply waiting. A rumbling growl rose from her chest, not aggressive but deeply resonant, communicating clearly that she would allow him no closer, not yet. Lucas raised both hands slowly, palms out in surrender, maintaining eye contact to demonstrate he meant no harm. "Easy, easy," he whispered softly, though his words were quickly swallowed by the rain. Ember continued to watch, breathing heavily, her fur matted, body visibly trembling from exhaustion. Slowly, Lucas took another careful step, eyes fixed on Ember, his body language calm, non-threatening. Finally, sensing no ill intent, Ember took several deliberate steps back, yielding the space around the bag, her eyes never leaving Lucas. The silent invitation was unmistakable. Lucas approached the bag cautiously, eyes wide, heartbeat roaring in his ears. Kneeling down, he reached forward hesitantly, pulling open the half-chewed zipper just enough to peer inside. His heart stopped briefly. Inside, curled and shivering, was a tiny bear cub, thin, bedraggled, barely conscious, with fur muddied and matted. Lucas's chest tightened painfully, recognizing immediately the gravity of this creature's condition. Ember had brought her cub here deliberately, not to threaten, but seeking aid. She trusted a stranger, a human, in the darkest moment of her life. Lucas looked up at Ember, eyes filled with wonder, confusion, and newfound respect. "Understand," he said softly, the rain dripping off his brow. Ember blinked slowly, exhaling deeply, acknowledging silently. Without further hesitation, Lucas carefully gathered the cub, still inside the bag, and cradled it close, feeling the fragile body tremble in his embrace. Ember watched him intently, but did not follow as Lucas slowly backed away, retreating step by step toward his building. Inside, Lucas quickly laid the cub gently on his worn sofa, grabbed a towel from his tiny bathroom, and began gently drying the small, weak animal. The cub stirred slightly, whimpering weakly, its large brown eyes clouded with exhaustion. Lucas felt something shift deep within him, a fierce protectiveness awakening, a connection he hadn't felt since losing Sam. Outside, Ember stood silently beneath the dim lights, watching Lucas's window, rain cascading down her muscular frame. She had done what she could, passing her burden onto another she believed capable. Her strength waning, she turned slowly, moving back into the shadows, satisfied that her cub would have a fighting chance. Lucas sat beside the cub, his hands trembling slightly from adrenaline and emotion, gazing at the fragile life entrusted to him. He knew his solitude had abruptly ended. The universe had sent him a profound responsibility, wrapped in fur and vulnerability. Perhaps, he thought, in saving the small creature, he might also begin to heal the wounds of his own broken heart. Outside, the rain continued to fall over the silent city, washing away past sorrows, carrying whispers of hope along its gutters. And within the quiet warmth of Lucas's modest apartment, the bond between man and beast began gently to form, ready to change both their lives forever. Lucas knelt beside the sofa, carefully adjusting a thick woolen blanket around the small bear cub, whose frail body trembled slightly beneath the soft fabric. Rain, as Lucas had decided to call him, lay quietly, his dark eyes half open, clouded with exhaustion and confusion. Lucas gently placed a bowl of lukewarm water close, encouraging him softly, "Drink a little, buddy." Rain sniffed cautiously before lapping weakly, his tongue barely disturbing the water. Lucas felt a gentle pang in his chest, a growing sense of responsibility and attachment to the small, helpless creature. For the first time in months, the shadow of loneliness in his apartment was pushed back by the quiet breaths of the cub beside him. Across the city, the storm continued its mournful song, rain tapping rhythmically against window panes, creating an intimate cocoon within Lucas's modest space. Meanwhile, just 2 neighborhoods away, Leah Hamilton stood alone in the dimly lit examination room of Midtown Animal Clinic, her petite figure nearly swallowed by the oversized white lab coat. At 35, Leah was slender, with short, tousled auburn hair and tired yet compassionate blue eyes behind round glasses that perpetually slid down her nose. Her quiet strength had long been admired by colleagues, yet her confidence now lay shattered by today's tragic events. Hours earlier, she'd lost a desperate battle to save a stray dog, a young shepherd mix she'd named Buddy, who succumbed to injuries inflicted by careless cruelty on city streets. Leah, usually calm and pragmatic, found herself shaken profoundly by the loss, questioning the very core of her career choice. Her passion for animals had always driven her forward, but lately, each loss seemed heavier, more personal, amplifying the growing void inside her. "Leah, you okay?" came a gentle voice from the doorway. It was Dr. Marcus Allen, the senior veterinarian at the clinic, a stout man in his mid-60s, gray-haired and fatherly, whose warm demeanor often brought solace to those around him. Marcus knew Leah better than anyone. He'd been her mentor since her internship days, guiding her patiently through challenges and doubts. Leah forced a weary smile, her shoulders slumping visibly. "Not really, Marcus," she replied softly. "Today felt different. I did everything I could, and it still wasn't enough." Marcus moved slowly into the room, placing a comforting hand on Leah's shoulder. "We can't save them all, Leah, but don't forget those you've brought back from the brink." Leah sighed deeply, eyes stinging with unshed tears. I don't think I can do this anymore. I need a break, maybe permanently." The next morning, the rain had finally subsided, leaving the city under a heavy blanket of fog, its streets slick and shimmering beneath the gray dawn. Lucas, exhausted after a sleepless night of attending to rain, carefully bundled the bear cub into his jacket and stepped out onto the wet sidewalk. He remembered seeing an animal clinic nearby on West 44th, and although hesitant, knew Ray needed professional care beyond his capabilities. As he walked slowly along the deserted street, Rain peered up trustingly, his tiny nose pressed against Lucas's chest, warmth seeping between them. Lucas's chest tightened with anxiety, not knowing how a veterinarian might react to a man carrying a wild bear cub into their office. When Lucas arrived at Midtown Animal Clinic, he found Leah packing her personal belongings into a cardboard box, preparing to leave indefinitely. Hearing the doorbell chime softly, she turned and saw Lucas, damp-haired and uncertain, clutching something small hidden beneath his coat. Their eyes met briefly, a silent mutual understanding of vulnerability passing between strangers. Leah hesitated, then asked gently, "Can I help you?" Lucas stepped forward cautiously, revealing Rain nestled against him, small and trembling. Leah's eyes widened in astonishment. "Is that a bear cub?" Lucas nodded, voice heavy with concern. "He needs help. Please. I didn't know where else to turn." Leah hesitated briefly, then sighed, her heart pulling her towards the frightened cub. "Bring him in," she said quietly, her resignation momentarily forgotten, replaced by instinct and compassion. Inside the examination room, Leah assessed Rain's condition carefully. Her hands, gentle yet decisive, ran tenderly over his thin frame, assessing injuries and weakness. Lucas watched silently, impressed by her quiet competence and the gentle way she soothed Rain. Leah explained softly, "He's severely malnourished, slightly dehydrated, but no major injuries. You did well keeping him warm last night. He'll need intensive care for a few days, but he'll survive." Lucas felt relief flood his chest, a rare warmth spreading through him. Leah glanced thoughtfully at Lucas, sensing his unspoken questions. "I don't know how you found him, or how a bear ended up in Manhattan," she said quietly. Lucas shared Ember's poignant act, how she'd appeared in the rainy night, entrusting her cub to him. Leah listened, fascinated yet moved, realizing her personal grief mirrored Lucas's in some intangible way. "She trusted you with something precious," Leah remarked softly, her voice distant with sadness. "I hope I can be worthy of that trust," Lucas replied earnestly. Leah's gaze softened slightly, finding comfort in Lucas's genuine compassion. As Leah gently wrapped Rain in a fresh towel, Marcus entered the room, his round face filled with surprise at the unusual patient. After briefly listening to their story, Marcus's brow furrowed thoughtfully. "We'll need to notify wildlife officials," he said, his voice regretful but practical. Lucas tensed visibly, sensing impending loss, but Leah interjected firmly, her earlier resignation forgotten entirely in newfound purpose. "Let me handle this, Marcus. The cub's fragile. He needs quiet, personal care first." Marcus paused, recognizing Leah's renewed determination, and nodded approvingly. "All right, Leah, your call." Outside the clinic, Lucas hesitated awkwardly, unsure how to thank Leah properly. "You've done so much. Please let me know how I can repay you," he said earnestly. Leah smiled faintly, touched by Lucas's sincerity. "Just promise you'll come visit him often," she said softly, her eyes warmly meeting his. Lucas nodded emphatically, gratefulness etched deeply into his tired features. "I'll be here every day," he vowed. Leah watched Lucas walk away down the wet sidewalk, something deep inside her chest beginning to mend. Returning to Rain, Leah gently cradled the small bear, feeling his tiny heartbeat steadying beneath her palm. For the first time since losing Buddy, she felt a spark reignite, reminding her why she'd become a vet: to heal, to protect. This fragile cub, born of desperation yet inspiring hope, had begun to heal something deep within her. Outside, the city gradually stirred awake beneath a brightening sky, leaving behind the lingering storm. Lucas walked home slowly, feeling lighter, burden eased by Leah's kindness and Rain's improving condition. Leah, holding Rain gently against her heart, knew she found a new path forward, her uncertainty diminished by compassion's quiet strength. Lucas stepped out of his apartment building, squinting as the bright sunlight pushed away the remnants of yesterday's storm. It felt as if the city itself was awakening from a deep sleep, drying its sidewalks, brushing off the heavy shadows of rain. Lucas paused, a slight smile tugging at his lips. His heart felt lighter, buoyed by a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced in a long time. He was on his way to see Rain again, but beneath the excitement was a nervous flutter. Today he would also see Leah, the gentle vet who'd somehow revived a spark of hope within him. On the short walk to Midtown Animal Clinic, Lucas caught sight of a familiar face. Standing near a street vendor selling fresh pastries was Tom Jenkins, a friendly man in his late 50s who owned a small bookshop near Lucas's apartment. Tom was robustly built, with salt and pepper hair framing a kindly face, often seen wearing colorful Hawaiian shirts despite the weather. Tom spotted Lucas and waved warmly. "Hey Lucas, haven't seen you out this early in ages. You finally back among the living?" he teased gently, handing a crumpled bill to the vendor. Lucas laughed softly, "Something like that, Tom." He hesitated briefly, then added, "Found a reason to step out again, I guess." Tom grinned knowingly, eyes twinkling, and handed Lucas a freshly baked apple turnover. "Here on the house. You look like you need it." Lucas thanked him, genuinely touched by Tom's quiet kindness, and continued onward, savoring the warm pastry. At the clinic, Leah Hamilton stood in the small treatment room, carefully preparing Rain's medication. The cub was curled on a blanket nearby, sleeping peacefully after finally eating a full meal. Leah felt a warmth bloom in her chest as she glanced at the cub, marveling at how quickly he'd become precious to her. She still felt fragile from recent losses, yet the care of Rain was stitching her heart back together, bit by bit. Marcus entered the room quietly, noticing Leah's contemplative expression. "He's doing remarkably well," Marcus noted gently. "And so are you, Leah." She blushed lightly, embarrassed yet grateful for his supportive words. Marcus continued softly, "Are you sure about leaving? You seem happier, more yourself, since this little guy arrived." Leah sighed, meeting Marcus's gaze honestly. "I'm not sure about anything yet," she admitted. I just know Rain needs me now. Maybe that's enough for the moment. Marcus nodded knowingly, understanding the quiet struggle within Leah. Take your time. Sometimes life has a way of guiding us back to where we belong, he offered gently before leaving the room, giving Leah space to reflect. Lucas arrived just as Rain began to stir, making soft, curious grunts from beneath the blankets. Leah looked up and smiled warmly at Lucas's tentative entrance. You came early, she said softly, her eyes gentle behind her glasses. Lucas smiled shyly. I couldn't wait to see how he was doing. Leah motioned for Lucas to approach, watching his cautious tenderness as he gently stroked the cub's fur. Rain, feeling the familiar touch, leaned slightly against Lucas's palm, his small brown eyes blinking slowly. Lucas felt a profound tenderness, silently thanking Ember for trusting him with something so precious. Leah watched quietly, sensing Lucas's emotional connection. You have a good heart, she whispered suddenly, surprising herself. Lucas met her gaze earnestly, the quiet compliment filling his chest with warmth. I could say the same about you, he replied gently, his voice sincere. Leah blushed softly, suddenly shy, her heart fluttering in a way it hadn't in years. Over the next few days, Lucas and Leah began spending more time together, bonding through shared care for Rain. Their conversations gradually deepened, each revealing vulnerabilities they had long hidden from others. One rainy afternoon, as they sat sipping coffee together in the small break room, Lucas quietly revealed the devastating loss of his younger brother, Sam. Leah listened intently, eyes soft with compassion as Lucas explained how Sam had always been his biggest supporter, his loss leaving Lucas lost and adrift. Leah gently placed her hand atop his, her warmth bringing Lucas unexpected comfort. Encouraged by his openness, Leah shared her own painful past, how her mother's death when Leah was 14 had left her struggling to trust others, especially her father who'd abandoned her shortly after. Leah's voice trembled slightly as she confessed her fear of abandonment had influenced much of her adult life. Lucas gently squeezed her hand, silently promising he understood and respected her vulnerability. One evening, as Lucas and Leah finished Rain's evening feed, the clinic's doorbell chimed softly. A woman entered hesitantly, carrying an old cat in her arms. The woman was Clara Bennett, a frail elderly lady with thin silver hair neatly pinned up, gentle eyes filled with worry. Clara had lived alone since losing her husband 2 years prior. Her only companion now was Jasper, her beloved tabby cat who at 14 had started showing signs of illness. Leah greeted Clara warmly, noting immediately the elderly woman's nervousness. With quiet efficiency, Leah examined Jasper gently, explaining clearly and kindly about treatment options to Clara. Watching Leah's tenderness with both Jasper and Clara, Lucas felt admiration grow deeper within him. Despite her own wounds, Leah always showed quiet strength, compassion radiating naturally from her gentle manner. After Clara left reassured, Leah noticed Lucas's thoughtful gaze. You handle people beautifully, Lucas observed softly. Genuine admiration cleared his voice. Leah smiled bashfully, shrugging slightly. Everyone deserves kindness, especially when they're frightened, she replied quietly, eyes gentle yet distant with memory. Later, Lucas and Leah stood side by side, observing Rain sleeping peacefully after his feeding. The cub's steady breathing created a calm rhythm, binding them together in comfortable silence. Leah suddenly broke the quiet, looking at Lucas earnestly. Do you ever wonder what Ember is doing right now? Lucas sighed softly, imagining the bear mother alone in the vast city. All the time, he admitted quietly, she sacrificed everything to keep him safe. I can only hope she's found peace, knowing he's cared for. Leah nodded slowly, deeply moved by the silent bravery Ember had shown. She trusted you completely. Lucas, Leah whispered sincerely. Lucas met her gaze seriously, feeling the weight of Leah's words deeply. I want to be worthy of it, he replied firmly, determination burning quietly in his voice. As night fell over Manhattan, the city lights softly illuminated the wet streets below. Lucas reluctantly rose to leave, suddenly aware how much he enjoyed Leah's company, how difficult it was becoming to say goodnight. Standing at the doorway, Leah hesitated slightly, then whispered softly, "Will you come tomorrow?" Lucas smiled warmly, his heart beating faster. "I'll be here," he promised sincerely. Leah watched Lucas leave, feeling an unfamiliar warmth grow steadily inside her. For the first time in many months, neither felt alone as they returned to their separate apartments, each harboring a newfound sense of hope. Rain's recovery progressed steadily, each passing day strengthening the bond between Lucas and Leah as they watched over the growing cub. Yet, beneath their cautious optimism lingered an eerie sensation. Each evening brought subtle signs that Ember, Rain's mother, still roamed nearby, unseen but palpable. Trash cans overturned silently in the alleyway, shadowy shapes glimpsed in peripheral vision, paw prints left in muddy flower beds near the clinic. All whispered Ember's quiet presence. Lucas sensed her closeness keenly, feeling both comforted and saddened by her vigilance. He began leaving small portions of food near the alley entrance each night, hoping Ember would understand his gratitude and reassurance for Rain's well-being. Leah had initially hesitated but soon agreed, moved deeply by Lucas's compassion and Ember's motherly devotion. Yet Ember never fully revealed herself again, remaining a phantom guardian whose shadow presence filled their nights. As days unfolded into weeks, Leah found herself gradually regaining a sense of purpose. Yet, just as her inner peace seemed within reach, an unexpected call shattered her fragile balance. One dreary Thursday morning, as Leah organized medicines in the clinic storeroom, her phone buzzed sharply, startling her. She answered distractedly, her heart skipping sharply as a cold, clinical voice introduced itself as belonging to Dr. Evelyn Monroe from Mercy General Hospital. Evelyn was a woman in her mid-50s, curt and precise, with a professionalism edged by years of emotionally taxing work. Her voice, though measured, carried a hint of tired empathy as she delivered the news. Leah's father, Patrick Hamilton, was gravely ill, hospitalized after suffering a severe stroke. Leah gripped the phone tightly, knuckles white, breath hitching sharply. Patrick Hamilton had been absent from her life since her 15th birthday, disappearing shortly after her mother's funeral. His abandonment had left Leah emotionally scarred, shaped profoundly by mistrust and self-doubt. She'd often wondered about him, fluctuating between anger and sadness. Now, the reality of his imminent death resurrected buried anguish. Evelyn gently informed Leah that her father was conscious but weak, repeatedly asking to see his daughter. Leah thanked the doctor mechanically, voice brittle, promising nothing but that she'd think about visiting. Shaken, Leah left the storeroom unsteadily, nearly colliding with Marcus, who noticed her distress instantly. "Leah, what's wrong?" Marcus asked, concern evident in his gentle brown eyes. Leah hesitated, then sighed heavily, confiding briefly about her father's sudden reappearance and illness. Marcus listened quietly, a compassionate sadness in his expression. He touched her shoulder comfortingly. "Whatever you choose, Leah, know you're strong enough to face it." Leah nodded weakly, appreciating his support, yet feeling utterly lost. That evening, Lucas arrived to find Leah sitting quietly by Rain, unusually subdued. Sensing her turmoil, Lucas approached gently, quietly asking if everything was okay. After a brief internal struggle, Leah decided to trust him, sharing the painful phone call she received earlier. Lucas listened intently, his face softened with empathy. Understanding too well the ache of unresolved grief, Lucas gently admitted the deeper reason behind his withdrawal from photography. Softly, he recounted to Leah how he'd captured moments around the world, sharing them eagerly with his brother, Sam. But on a photography expedition Lucas had planned as a gift, Sam tragically drowned, leaving Lucas with relentless guilt. Leah listened silently, heart aching for Lucas's quiet suffering. Gently, she placed a comforting hand on his, recognizing their shared struggles to forgive themselves and others. Their vulnerability created deeper intimacy, drawing them closer beneath the clinic's soft lighting. Leah finally confessed quietly, "I don't know if I can face him again, Lucas. He left me broken. I don't think I can forgive him." Lucas squeezed her hand tenderly, his voice gentle yet firm. "Maybe forgiveness isn't just about him. Maybe it's about freeing yourself from that pain." Leah looked into Lucas's warm eyes, his wisdom resonating deeply, though forgiveness still felt distant and daunting. In the quiet hours afterward, as the clinic settled into darkness, Leah returned home alone, mind heavy with memories of childhood pain. Alone in her small Brooklyn apartment, Leah sifted through dusty boxes, hesitantly pulling out old photos she'd hidden away. Gazing at faded images of happier times, her mother's gentle smile, Patrick's arm lovingly around her younger self, Leah felt the familiar ache intensify. Her tears fell silently, grief and anger intertwined. She realized she'd carried the burden of resentment for years, but Lucas's gentle words echoed clearly, urging her to confront her buried emotions, however painful. Meanwhile, across town, Lucas spent the night awake, lost in memories he'd long suppressed. The agony of losing Sam felt freshly raw, yet oddly bearable, shared with Leah. Sitting quietly near his window, Lucas stared at his neglected camera, resting untouched since Sam's death. Slowly, Lucas picked it up, feeling its comforting weight in his hands. Perhaps, he considered, facing his grief openly was the first step toward true healing. The next morning, Leah, still emotionally bruised, cautiously approached the reception desk at Mercy General Hospital. The attending nurse, a young woman named Isabel Reyes, greeted Leah warmly, her demeanor kind yet brisk. Isabel was petite, cheerful, with dark curly hair and bright, compassionate eyes accustomed to seeing family struggles daily. Noticing Leah's discomfort, Isabel gently guided her to Patrick's room, offering quiet support. Leah paused outside, heart pounding anxiously, feeling as small and vulnerable as the 15-year-old girl her father once abandoned. Inside the sterile hospital room, Patrick Hamilton lay frail and diminished, a shadow of Leah's childhood memories. Once robust and towering, now he seemed fragile, his face deeply lined, eyes dulled by age and illness. Seeing Leah, Patrick's eyes filled instantly with tears, voice trembling weakly. "Leah, you came." Leah's breath shuddered, her heart torn between sympathy and lingering bitterness. She hesitated before finally stepping forward, sitting awkwardly beside him. Patrick began apologizing brokenly, his voice strained with regret and desperation. Leah listened silently, heart aching sharply with each word. Finally, unable to restrain herself, Leah's voice shook softly. "Why did you leave?" Patrick, tears streaming silently, admitted weakly, "I couldn't bear my grief, Leah. Losing your mother broke me. I failed you terribly, and I've regretted it every day since." Leah felt tears slide hotly down her cheeks, emotions overwhelming her completely. She didn't forgive instantly, couldn't erase years of abandonment. Yet something within her shifted, softened slightly by her father's painful vulnerability and honest regret. Quietly, Leah took his frail hand, whispering, "I'm here now. That's enough for today." Patrick squeezed weakly, grateful beyond words, comforted by Leah's tentative gesture of reconciliation. Leaving the hospital later, Leah felt lighter, her heavy heart finally easing slightly. The road to forgiveness remained long, yet she had taken the first crucial step. That evening, Leah and Lucas met again by Rain's side, their emotional burdens slightly lighter. Rain slept peacefully, unaware his fragile life had ignited profound healing in the hearts of two lost souls. Leah stood silently at the threshold of Patrick Hamilton's hospital room, hesitating, the sterile smell of antiseptic mingling uncomfortably with distant memories. Patrick lay quietly, frail beneath crisp white sheets, his breathing slow and labored. A lifetime seemed to have etched itself onto his features, a map of regrets and unspoken apologies. Gathering her courage, Leah stepped forward, her heart heavy with unresolved emotions yet buoyed by a fragile hope. As she approached, Patrick's weary eyes opened, immediately filling with a mixture of disbelief, gratitude, and sorrow. Leah sat gently beside his bed, her fingers nervously tracing patterns on the blanket. Patrick reached out cautiously, his hand trembling, unsure if his daughter would accept his touch. Leah hesitated briefly, her own fingers finally intertwining carefully with his, a small gesture bridging years of hurt. "Leah, I'm so sorry," Patrick whispered weakly, tears slipping silently down his weathered cheeks. Leah nodded slowly, feeling an ache rise sharply in her throat. "I needed you, Dad," she murmured softly, voice fragile with grief and quiet anger. Patrick winced, eyes closing briefly, weighed down by remorse. "I was too broken, too scared," he admitted painfully. Leah sighed deeply, hearing the sincerity and vulnerability in his voice. "I can't change the past," Patrick continued earnestly, "but I wish I could make you see how deeply I regret leaving you." Leah felt tears burn her eyes, emotions swirling chaotically within her chest. But something shifted gently within her at that moment. A door cracked open, allowing forgiveness to softly seep in. She squeezed her father's frail hand gently, whispering with quiet conviction, "I think I understand now." The room seemed lighter as father and daughter shared silent tears, years of bitterness slowly dissolving. Across town, Lucas was engrossed in thought, sitting alone at his kitchen table, surrounded by forgotten photographs and dusty cameras. Watching Leah courageously confront her past had ignited something within him, a gentle spark of inspiration he thought had long since died with Sam. He picked up his favorite camera, an old Nikon worn from countless adventures, and felt its comforting weight settle naturally into his hands. Gazing at its lens, Lucas recalled vividly how his brother had always encouraged his art, believing in Lucas even when Lucas couldn't believe in himself. Determined, Lucas decided it was time to honor Sam's memory by reclaiming his passion and using photography to advocate for creatures like Ember and Rain, whose struggles he'd witnessed intimately. With renewed purpose, Lucas stepped out into the bright afternoon sun, camera slung confidently around his neck for the first time in years. That afternoon at the clinic, Rain played energetically, his strength significantly improved. Leah returned to find Lucas photographing Rain joyfully chasing a squeaky toy across the floor, capturing innocent delight. She paused silently at the doorway, smiling warmly at the sight, heart swelling with affection for both Rain and Lucas. Noticing her presence, Lucas turned, offering a sheepish grin. "Hope you don't mind," he admitted shyly. Leah shook her head, stepping closer with a gentle smile. "It's beautiful seeing you behind the camera again," she said softly. Lucas met her gaze earnestly, feeling encouraged by her approval. "It's your courage that inspired me," he confessed warmly, sincerity clear in his voice. Leah blushed slightly, feeling closer than ever to Lucas. Their conversation was gently interrupted by the entrance of a new patient. Michael Ross, a cheerful man in his early 30s, entered holding a small dachshund named Charlie. Michael was tall with a broad, athletic build, friendly brown eyes, and a wide smile beneath curly blonde hair. Charlie, Michael's beloved dog, was small, elderly at 15, and visibly anxious, shivering lightly against Michael's chest. Michael spoke warmly, his easygoing manner calming Charlie's trembling. "He's been acting strangely lately," Michael explained quietly, gently stroking Charlie's gray-flecked muzzle. Leah examined Charlie tenderly, her voice soothing, diagnosing early arthritis and recommending gentle medication. Michael thanked Leah sincerely, his voice genuinely grateful. As Michael left, Leah sighed softly, content in helping others again. Days later, Lucas presented Leah with a set of stunning photographs he'd captured, beautifully portraying Rain's recovery and playful innocence, alongside haunting images suggestive of Ember's quiet vigilance. Leah's eyes widened, deeply moved by Lucas's thoughtful portrayal. "These could change things," she whispered, eyes shining brightly behind her glasses. Lucas nodded seriously. "I want people to understand and respect wildlife, Leah. Ember and Rain's story deserves to be told." Leah squeezed his hand warmly, inspired by his newfound determination. Their collaboration deepened rapidly, drawing attention from a local environmental organization. Sophie Carter, a middle-aged woman with fierce determination, striking red hair, and a commanding presence, reached out personally. Sophie had spent years tirelessly advocating for urban wildlife protection, her manner brisk yet deeply compassionate. Meeting Lucas and Leah, Sophie enthusiastically suggested an exhibition featuring Lucas's photographs, hoping to raise awareness and support wildlife preservation efforts. Overwhelmed yet excited, Lucas gratefully accepted, feeling for the first time since Sam's passing that he'd reclaimed a significant purpose. Preparations for the exhibition brought Lucas and Leah even closer, their shared passion strengthening their bond. Rain continued thriving under their care, blossoming into a vibrant symbol of resilience. Their evenings were spent poring over photographs, sharing quiet laughter, exchanging lingering glances filled with warmth and growing affection. Leah felt increasingly at peace, grateful for Lucas's gentle support through her reconciliation with Patrick. Lucas, likewise, drew strength from Leah's courage, inspired daily by her compassionate heart. Finally, the exhibition opened, drawing an unexpectedly large crowd. Lucas's powerful images stirred emotional responses, prompting conversations about humanity's responsibility toward wildlife. Standing side by side amidst buzzing admiration, Leah gently leaned into Lucas, whispering softly, "Sam would be proud." Lucas's eyes glistened, moved deeply by her quiet words of encouragement. Sophie approached them enthusiastically, delighted by the event's success. "Your photographs are touching hearts, Lucas. You've made a real difference," she praised earnestly. Lucas nodded humbly, gratitude filling his chest. Returning to the clinic afterward, Lucas and Leah stood quietly watching Rain sleep peacefully. The cub represented far more than survival. Rain embodied their collective journey toward forgiveness, healing, and purpose rediscovered. Lucas gently took Leah's hand, turning her toward him, his gaze warm and sincere. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," he admitted softly. Leah smiled tenderly, her heart full. "We did it together," she whispered earnestly, realizing how deeply she'd come to care for him. Outside, the night sky above New York glittered with stars rarely visible through city lights, illuminating their shared path forward. Inside the clinic, surrounded by soft silence, Leah and Lucas embraced warmly, their hearts lighter, the shadows of the past retreating further with each passing heartbeat. Early spring sunlight filtered gently through newly budded leaves, painting delicate patterns across the forest path as Lucas and Leah guided Rain through the lush trails of Adirondack Wildlife Reserve. Rain, now strong and nearly grown, trotted ahead eagerly, his glossy coat shimmering under the morning glow. He paused occasionally, sniffing curiously at wildflowers and fallen branches, excitement palpable in every step. Leah watched him affectionately, her heart swelling with bittersweet pride. Lucas squeezed her hand reassuringly, sensing her quiet conflict. He understood perfectly. The joy of Rain's recovery was tempered by sadness at the impending goodbye. Yet they both knew it was time. Rain belonged to these woods, a life free beneath open skies, wild and unfettered. Lucas's gaze softened warmly toward Leah, grateful beyond words for the strength they'd found together in caring for Rain. Their hearts, once heavy with loss, now beat stronger, healed through compassion and shared courage. Near the designated release area, a park ranger named Bethany Morgan awaited them, a woman in her early 40s with sun-streaked blonde hair, pulled into a tidy ponytail. Bethany, known for her gentle authority and tireless dedication to wildlife, approached with an easy smile. Her uniform crisp yet practical, she radiated warmth and competence. "Welcome," she greeted gently, extending a confident hand. "You must be Lucas and Leah. I've heard a lot about Rain's remarkable journey." Leah nodded warmly, finding immediate comfort in Bethany's steady presence. Lucas shook Bethany's hand appreciatively, grateful for her support in this emotional moment. Bethany crouched down, calmly meeting Rain's curious gaze. "Hello there, brave boy," she murmured softly, admiration clear in her voice. Rain sniffed her cautiously, then relaxed, sensing her kindness. Bethany straightened up, her voice gentle but firm. "Whenever you're ready, just release him here. This area is perfect, plenty of resources, other bears nearby, and minimal human interference." Lucas thanked her quietly, moved by her compassionate assurance. Lucas and Leah knelt beside Rain one final time. Leah gently stroked his velvety ears, tears threatening despite her brave smile. "Be safe, Rain," she whispered softly. Lucas, emotions equally raw, rested a comforting hand on Rain's broad shoulder. "You change our lives, buddy. Now go live yours." Rain blinked slowly, understanding nothing of their words, yet sensing the profound emotion behind them. After a hesitant moment, he turned and padded confidently toward the forest edge, pausing briefly to glance back, as if imprinting their faces into memory. Then, with newfound freedom, Rain disappeared gracefully between sunlit trees. As Lucas and Leah watched Rain's retreating form, something moved silently at the tree line's edge. Breath catching sharply, they both recognized the massive silhouette instantly. Ember stood quietly, powerful and majestic, watching her grown cub approach. Her rich brown coat, now gleaming in sunlight rather than rain, bore subtle scars of past struggles, but her golden brown eyes shone brightly with pride and love. Rain paused uncertainly before moving closer, recognizing instantly the mother who had fought relentlessly for his survival. The two bears sniffed gently, cautiously reacquainting themselves. Ember softly nuzzled Rain, her massive strength tempered by maternal tenderness. Lucas felt a profound gratitude swell in his chest, moved deeply by the gentle reunion unfolding before them. Leah's hand found his, squeezing softly, their tears falling quietly as they witnessed Ember and Rain's healing reunion. Returning to the ranger station, Lucas and Leah felt a quiet serenity settle over their hearts, a bittersweet farewell giving way to newfound clarity. Bethany awaited them patiently, her thoughtful expression understanding their emotional state. "It's always difficult," she said softly, voice gentle. "But you've given him exactly what he needed, a second chance." Lucas nodded appreciatively, meeting Leah's gaze warmly. "He gave us even more," Lucas admitted softly, voice tender with affection. Leah smiled gently, deeply moved. "Rain taught us how to heal," she whispered sincerely, gratitude clear in her eyes. In the days following Rain's release, Lucas and Leah often found themselves quietly reflecting on their transformative journey. Inspired deeply by their experience, an idea formed quietly yet insistently between them, a vision they now shared openly and eagerly. One peaceful evening, while strolling hand in hand along Brooklyn's quiet streets, Lucas gently broached the topic. "What if we could help more animals like Rain? Give others the same chance he had?" Leah paused thoughtfully, heart beating faster. "Like opening our own wildlife rescue?" she asked hopefully, eyes brightening. Lucas nodded earnestly. "Exactly. Rain and Ember showed us how much can change when compassion guides us. Let's keep sharing their story, keep paying that kindness forward." Leah squeezed his hand, feeling joy bloom warmly within her chest. "Let's do it," she agreed firmly, a confident smile lighting her features. Soon, their vision blossomed into reality. Together, Lucas and Leah secured funding and support from enthusiastic local donors, inspired by Rain's story and Lucas's photography exhibition. They leased a picturesque property just outside the city, with plenty of natural space for animals in need. They named their venture Rain's Sanctuary, in tribute to the bear who had reshaped their lives profoundly. Bethany Morgan became an invaluable advisor, guiding them expertly through legal permits and facility design, becoming a close friend along the way. During the sanctuary's preparations, Leah regularly visited her father in the hospital, slowly rebuilding a relationship based on genuine understanding and forgiveness. Patrick Hamilton's health improved gradually, strengthened by Leah's renewed presence. Her gentle reconciliation lifted a burden from both their hearts, each visit easing years of unresolved pain. Lucas returned fully to photography, his camera now consistently by his side. He documented the sanctuary's growth, capturing poignant images of rescued wildlife and dedicated volunteers. His photographs continued to raise awareness and inspire advocacy, fulfilling a promise made silently to his brother Sam's memory. Lucas knew Sam would have been deeply proud, comforted by the healing Lucas finally embraced. Months later, Rain's Sanctuary officially opened, bustling immediately with volunteers, visitors, and recovering wildlife. Michael Ross and Charlie became frequent visitors, Michael cheerfully donating funds and time, Charlie contentedly trotting beside him. Sophie Carter often visited, proud to collaborate closely, delighted by Lucas and Leah's powerful advocacy. One gentle spring evening, Leah and Lucas stood side by side, overlooking the sanctuary grounds bathed in soft twilight. Animals rested safely within, cared for with boundless compassion. Leah leaned into Lucas comfortably, quietly reflecting on their journey. "We found our way through darkness," she whispered gratefully, "and emerged stronger together." Lucas embraced her warmly, deeply thankful for every challenge that had guided them here. They knew their journey had never been just about rescuing Rain. It had always been about rescuing each other, finding courage and healing through compassion's quiet power. Under the emerging stars, Lucas and Leah's hearts beat in quiet unison, their lives now forever intertwined, bound gently by forgiveness, healing, and shared purpose. In life, each of us carries burdens from our past, painful memories, regrets, or unspoken sorrows. Yet, as we've seen in Lucas and Leah's journey, healing begins when we open our hearts to compassion, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Like Rain, we sometimes find ourselves helpless, relying on the kindness and courage of others to guide us back toward hope. And just as Ember bravely entrusted her precious cub to the care of strangers, sometimes our greatest strength lies in our vulnerability, in trusting others, and trusting God's gentle guidance. If this story touched your heart today, please share it with someone who might need encouragement or inspiration. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories of hope and redemption. May God bless you, guide you, and grant you strength in every challenge you face. If you believe in the power of kindness, love, and healing, comment and mend below.